Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and if you hear a motor in the background, it is because you do. This time is different. You're experiencing a sound on this channel that you've never experienced, and that is, this is a termite or a pest control company, and what's going on is I came home the other day and there was a stump from a tree. A tree had hit my house during one of the hurricanes. It had fallen across the house. We got all that fixed, but cut the tree down and the stump remained. It was a big old huge pine tree. So you've heard about those Georgia pines, right? And so the other day walked up and there were termites just all over that stump. And so I decided I'd call a pest control company. They come out. I don't have termites, but they're going to put in, I think they call it like a Centricon system, where they put all these bait stations around your house or something, and then it draws the termites to those or whatever, just a preventative type thing. So they're doing that right now, and they've got for some reason they turn on a motor. I don't know if they're spraying stuff or what, but anyway, there's a motor going, and that's what you're listening to. Okay, now let's get to crypto. Now, we've been watching Anthony Pompliano and Michael Saylor, the ultimate Bitcoin maxis, glorifying what is Bitcoin in all these videos. They're on all the TV shows and everything. And, you know, once Elon Musk kind of backed them into the corner on this energy issue and that became a thing, ever since then, they have both, in my opinion, seemed a little unhinged, trying to defend the indefensible. And I was telling somebody on the phone just a minute ago, it would have been so much easier on these guys if they had not run with this ridiculous idea that, oh, it's only Bitcoin and everything else is garbage. If they had not done that, then they wouldn't be having to deal with the truth tellers now. And the truth tellers are myself and some others who we're fine with Bitcoins. I don't have a problem with Bitcoin. But I think that people need to be honest about what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin is not. Okay, store of value because you don't have a use case and you can't do payments because you're not scalable, you're too expensive. Okay, let's admit that, be honest about it, and then you can be your store of value. And over time, in my opinion, you might hold that spot and you may lose it, you might hold it, but I think that what their fear has always been is that if they didn't do the only Bitcoin thing, then at some point, since they knew that better technologies exist, that they would have to compete with those. And so that's the narrative they chose to run with. I think that was a big, huge mistake. And I think they'll pivot from it at some point. Now, but as long as they're using ridiculous, and this is what I said, after observing Bitcoin maxis using huge, irrelevant, and ridiculous words to describe Bitcoin, I decided I would do the same with XRP. XRP is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious thermonuclear juggernaut of digital finance, ready to change the game, so it begins. So from now on, when I refer to XRP, I am going to put some kind of massive word in front of it that has absolutely nothing to do with XRP or digital assets, but that will sound really good, okay? Might even do that in the title of this video. All right, all in the name of sense of humor, folks. If you can't laugh, then you really, life gets pretty depressing. XRP Crypto Wolf Crypto Exchange has processed $2 trillion in volume this month. Big time. Hey, Oseko Carmona sent me this. ODL Daily Summary, top 3 quarters. And then you can see that for yourself, but apparently the ODL is increasing. And then we have this, Judy Shelton. Bloomberg reporting that Bank of International Settlements has bought 1 ounces of gold, potentially for central bank clients. If true, this is big news. I believe it's always been about gold, and I believe it's been about something else too, though. I believe, I've told you this for a long time, And before I go any further, with regard to the SEC lawsuit, as I told you the other day, what the SEC lawsuit against Ripple is not. What it is not is the SEC trying to fulfill its mandate of protecting investors and all the other things. That's pretty clear at this point. If you don't get that, then you don't get much, okay? It is not, this lawsuit was not to protect investors. Do you feel protected as an XRP holder? I don't. So that brings us to two possibilities. One possibility is that this is a politically motivated hit job on Ripple and in essence XRP. That's a distinct possibility. But the other possibility is that all the Gary Genslers and all these guys are on the same team and that all the world's a freaking stage. So this I'm about to show you is that side of potential. First of all, I showed you Anders L. I showed you his clip here. This morning, I think it was this morning's video, where he was talking about the additions to the board, Sandy O'Connor from J.P. Morgan, right? And then the other lady, Rosie Rios, who was with the Treasury and was in charge of Fort Knox and all the U.S. gold. Okay, now I went and found this clip. This is Gary Gensler. And I said, put this in the All the World's a Stage file. The Future of Global Financial System. This is from 2014, 1 year after Ripple showed up on the scene in 2013. Listen to what he says.
Fourth, I think the key drivers have to ultimately be the U.S.
And as you watch this, remember, I've said it for a long time on this channel. This is not about crypto. Digital assets, I've always said, I believe Bitcoin, I believe all of this was created, not all, but I believe most of it was created by governments, and I don't know which ones, okay? And I believe it was done during the financial crisis. Bitcoin was released during the financial crisis, and it was literally written in the Bitcoin code to make it look like this was a response to all the bailouts, to make it look like a libertarian movement. I believe that was intentional. I believe the governments have been working on digital currencies for decades. We know they have because they said so. Jerome Powell said so in a video clip I've played on this channel before. I believe it was created to look like a libertarian movement so that it would capture not just bad guys, but also any money that was hitting the exits from people like me and some of you who lost faith in the system because they were bailing out people and printing money and doing QE. I believe that's why it was created. Now, so in other words, and here's the other thing. I believe all of this was done to solve the systemic potential to once and for all solve the problems of systemic risk in the derivatives market. I think LIBOR is attached to it too. Now, against all that backdrop, I want you to listen to what he says.
Fourth, I think...
This is when Gary Gensler was with the CFTC in 2014. CFTC is in charge of derivatives.
Key drivers have to ultimately be the U.S., Europe, and Japan. It's not to say that China and other countries aren't going to be a critical piece. In the derivatives world that we did...
Who have you seen Ripple talking to for the last 3 years? He said it would be U.S., Europe, and Japan. So SBI buys 10.5% of Ripple. Where have you seen Ripple working for the last 3 years? Meeting with central banks, Christine Lagarde, BIS in Switzerland, Brad Garlinghouse is in the room. Europe.
90 to 95% of the transactions are Europe, the U.S., and Japan. And if you don't have a consensus there, you're not going to bring others along. It doesn't mean other countries aren't important. Fifth, I think that it's critical that we cover the worldwide operations of financial institutions, not just take a territorial approach.
Don't forget, Gary Gensler was right smack dab in the middle of the financial crisis. He's been involved in all of that stuff from day one.
Bob made that fateful call to me 15, 16 years ago about long-term capital management.
Long-term capital management, look it up. I've heard Jim Rickards talk about it. Long-term capital management was also a systemic risk situation before the financial crisis.
Well, if it's in the Cayman Islands, we're not going to worry about it. And certainly when Sheila and Tim Geithner and Hank Paulson had to sort through AIG, they couldn't say, oh, it's in London, we don't have to worry about it. And so we can't take a territorial approach. On the other hand, we have to actually recognize if the Europeans or the Japanese or somebody in Canada has a good regulatory regime, we recognize it and we stand back, and that's called substituted compliance or equivalence, and we have a way to stand down and let them do their thing. But progress will ebb and flow in cycles, generally around price.
Now, remember, as for the rest of this clip, look down here. This is what is Anders L talking about? LIBOR and gold. Sandy O'Connor and Rosie Rios. Listen to what he's about to say.
There's going to be a crisis like the Latin American crises or the Russian debt crises or this 08 crisis. Will make forward motion, but reality is it will ebb and flow, and sometimes it will go backwards.
So what he's saying is, what he just said in essence is that these crises provide opportunities, and he's going to say it again in the next video I'm going to show you. And remember, what have we been hearing during the current events of what's happened with the pandemic and all? These guys have been carrying a baton of, well, this provides an opportunity for us to go in the Great Reset and all the different stuff, right? They're using it. They're not letting a crisis go to waste. We'll get to that.
There has been real progress on capital reform, on accounting reform, hopefully on what we did in derivatives, the resolution regimes that Sheila and others at the FDIC put in place. On LIBOR, at the center of the crisis, we had an interest rate that was being rigged, and now we're actually working globally to fix that. So there's real progress, but I think just like the Tower of Babel, we live in a multicultural world which we have to recognize and do our best.
It's almost like they were trying to get the world together to solve the systemic risk problem globally, right? Now, remember in the past I've told you about the quote from Rahm Emanuel, who was in the Obama, I think it was Obama administration and Clinton maybe. Rahm Emanuel's famous for this quote: "You never want a serious crisis to go to waste." And what I mean by that is an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before. I guess like global resets. Listen to, this is Gary Gensler from the same thing. And by the way, that was at Yale University, February 24th, 2014, and it was called "The Future of the Global Financial System."
Rahm Emanuel is quoted so often about a crisis, but I think it is the nature of things. I think there's some really hard consensus around capital.
That consensus word sure is interesting, isn't it?
That has been met, that Dan Tarullo and his leadership and Ben, and now Janet at the Federal Reserve will be leading. But then it's hard. You start with a political consensus and you move all the way
There's
down
that word
to
again.
granular, small, little details. And the devil is in the detail, because back to a basic tenet of finance, there's arbitrage. When Lehman Brothers failed, they had 3,300 legal entities. And modern finance is all the large financial institutions have between 2,000 and 4,000 legal entities. So they will use structure to find a small, imperceptible arbitrage, difference in markets around some regulation. But I think we can get things done. It will ebb and flow. If the European debt crisis gets worse at some point, there'll be movement towards something. If it goes back, we even saw this in the last few years. It was actually small in relation to the institution, a $6 billion loss at JP Morgan over credit derivatives in their London office. But that sort of created actually some political openness to complete a Volcker rule. So it sometimes ebbs and flows.
Right. Never let a crisis go to waste. And then let's look at this. So here's what we have coming up. And this is from Stefan Huber. New Sunshine meeting next week on the 3rd of June. And I'm just going to throw this out there. I think June might just be a fascinating month. And as this is one of these meetings, this is the second Gary Gensler closed door meeting. And this is a meeting where they discuss things like institution and settlement of injunctive actions, institution and settlement of administrative proceedings, resolution of litigation claims, like a Ripple lawsuit, other matters relating to examinations and enforcement proceedings, okay? So this is on June the 3rd. Guess what else starts? This is June 4th. This Bitcoin 2021 conference is being billed as one of the biggest crypto or Bitcoin conferences that there has been. Look at this. This is from their webpage. Bitcoin 2021 is officially sold out. Thank you to all of our attendees and sponsors who have supported this event over the past year. We've hit our capacity of 12,000 attendees, but you can join the Bitcoin 2021 ticket wait list in case more tickets become available. And look at the people that are going to be there. Ron Paul, Cynthia Loomis. This is the senator that Brad Garlinghouse thanked when they opened the Ripple company in Wyoming. Michael Saylor will be there using big words. Jack Dorsey from Twitter. Tony Hawk will be there. Just about anybody that you can think of is going to be at this Bitcoin conference. It will be interesting. Tim Draper's going to be there. Let's see if I can find you another big one. Chris Giancarlo is going to be there. So they've got pretty much everybody at this thing. So let me float out just some crazy ideas. So what else do you have in June? You also have the Flare network launching in June. And I find it interesting, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. Flare keeps talking about how they're gonna integrate like Dogecoin and some of these other digital assets on the Flare network. So you'll have F Doge, and then you'll have F whatever else they've got. But I find it interesting that they have not announced that they're going to have Bitcoin on the thing. But that's the one you would want on there because Bitcoin has all these issues that could easily be solved with the Flare network. This tweet was interesting to me. What if, and this is just a what if XRP gets clarity next week at that meeting? What if it did? Okay, or they settled it. And at the same time, Bitcoin is right here in the middle of having to face all these questions about it, the energy issues, and these guys are obviously reeling. But what if all of these things converge and you had some kind of a settlement or something that for XRP, and at the same time Bitcoin gets bogged down, and it says the timeline becomes more clear. XRP will be the first to get clarity. Others will bow to the king. Value unlocks with Flare. XRP rises when Flare launches. Flare is scheduled to launch in mid to late June. What if, in conjunction with all of this and Bitcoin reeling, then they announced an F Bitcoin? What would the irony there be for there to be an F Bitcoin, as in like FU Bitcoin? That would be pretty crazy. Now, I'll go ahead and cover this because this kind of rolls into this. Am I the only one that finds it crazy? First of all, this BitBoy guy, I've never even heard of him until a week ago. Out of nowhere. No, and for those of you that don't know, as social media influencers go, there's a couple of categories. One is the category I'm in, which is just some average person out there in the world who starts a channel and starts tweeting and starts making videos, and their channel, people like what they're saying and they know what they're talking about or whatever, and their channel grows as a result of that. There's another category of the influencers and some I could name names, but I'm not going to. I don't know if this guy's in that, but my antenna's up on that. Because this guy started around the same year I did, and he's one of two things. He's either a guy, and this is the other category, is the person that starts the channel like that, same way, but they have marketing gunpowder and they're spending money on advertising at the same time. And that's what I'm wondering about this guy. But here's the thing. He comes out of nowhere. I've never even heard of him. I've been in this for 2 or 3 years. I've never even heard of this guy. Pops up a week or two ago as the largest crypto influencer in the world. He's obviously a Bitcoin guy, and out of nowhere starts talking about XRP. And I think that's what esoteric XRP is pointing out here. Did this guy just learn about XRP literally a couple of weeks ago and now making videos about it? And Ripple and XRP are now showcased on Bloomberg and other MSM outlets. The narrative is quickly changing, and you know what that could mean. And then he says this, which this is the same guy, BitBoy. If you don't think Ethereum will eventually pass Bitcoin in market cap, then I'm not sure we can be friends. So this guy is He's either a 1,000% legitimate influencer in his realm, and we just are just now noticing him because he's all of a sudden talking what we've been talking, or he's got a freaking marketing machine behind him, or maybe a combination of both. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that my antenna is up in a lot of different ways right now, and I think the next month is going to be fascinating.